We have updates on the COVID relief bill in the House, as well as Governor Andrew Cuomo in New York. We have a Biden order when it comes to voter suppression, and then the rise and fall of Blueanon. This is your Not So News update. Please like and subscribe if you're looking for daily news content, and let's dive on in. Starting us off from Kiplinger, we have the Senate passes bill with more targeted stimulus payment. The Senate finally passes a $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill, but fewer people will get the third stimulus check under the Senate version, compared to the House passed version. What we're seeing in this is they're calling it targeted, which means less people will be getting the checks. Essentially what they're saying is, I believe 80,000 is the limit for an individual, 120,000 for married couples, and then 200,000 for head of households are 120 to 150, and the married couple is 160 to 200. Those numbers, the first number is the max, or like everyone up to that point will get the max check, and then it fades off to the higher of those two numbers. What the main thing we're seeing is there's a $1,400 for dependents. This added to the $600 checks that were sent off earlier this, or I guess it was late last year, adds up to the quote-unquote $2,000 stimulus checks. There are some people kind of debating that point, whether they meant they would be an additional $2,000 or not, but believe that is. Finally, the payments, so those numbers for the brackets are based on 2019 or 2020 tax returns, and these stimulus checks will not be taxed, i.e. they are not income. There's also a couple of things that Democrats lost in this, coming from USA Today. We have some House progressives aren't happy with the Senate version of the COVID relief package. Here's what changed. The reason why the House opinion is notable is that the Senate changes then go over to the House. If the House progressives do not approve of the Senate bill, then we're essentially starting from scratch again with trying to get something approved. Essentially what we're seeing is just democracy at work, trying to get the balance of, the more moderates and the more progressives individuals at work. What they include in here is that the $15 federal minimum wage was removed. The main point being came from Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, that even though they weren't necessarily against an increase in the federal minimum wage, there's no reason for this to be a part of code relief, and that could be its own standalone legislation. Something I'm very big proponent of is that they they start doing like single line voting for stuff. I think it's really frustrating to see these very large bills that no one has read, and essentially you have to vote on 100 things rather than getting someone to vote for everything at once. Also included in the US Today is they note the different numbers for the people getting to 1,400. There's unemployment benefits reduced, and then finally some of the other projects that were nixed. So initially there was a California subway and a New York bridge that the House intended to include as projects. Notably, these comes from Schumer and Pelosi's states, but those were removed. And then they finally limits on aid for state and local governments, as well as just other aid interests. I think the big thing to note of this is out of the $1,400 that every individual is getting from this, it costs each individual $5,000 if you look at the $1.9 trillion spent. So at the end of the day, there's going to be a ton of inflation as a result of this. It's not a good situation that we're in, but hence we're in coronavirus times. We have Andrew Cuomo lashes out a call to resign after new allegations emerge. There are now 2 more allegations against Andrew Cuomo, and he made it clear on Sunday that he will not be resigning after 2 additional women accused him of behaving inappropriately when they worked for him. He went on saying, "There's no way I resign." The state majority leader, Andrea Stewart Collins, a fellow Democrat, called Cuomo to resign when stating the following: "Every day there's another account that is drawing away from the business of government," she said. "We have allegations about sexual harassment, toxic work environment, loss of credibility surrounding the COVID-19 nursing home data, and questions about the construction of a major infrastructure project. New York is still in the midst of a pandemic and still facing the societal health and economic impacts of it," she continued. "We need to govern without a daily distraction. For the good of the state, Governor Cuomo must resign." One thing I do really appreciate here is we've kind of gotten away from the COVID nursing home corruption that was the original story when it came to Andrew Cuomo, and we've kind of moved into the sexual assault allegations. Something I do want to hold Andrew Cuomo accountable for is the lack of transparency when it came to reporting nursing home deaths. I'm personally not that aware of this major infrastructure project, so that's something new I can look into. But I personally thought the sexual assault allegations were meant to be a distraction from the COVID nursing home deaths. So nice to see that even Democrats are kind of wrapping us back in. BBC News reports that a U.S. pastor is on leave after Melania Trump trophy wife comments. Trump's still making news, and it looks like his wife is as well. If you look at the tweet that kind of quotes this, is Pastor Stuart Allen Clark tells congregation that women need to work harder to look good for men. I'm not saying every woman can be the epic trophy wife of all time like Melania Trump. Most women can't be trophy wives, but maybe you're a participation trophy. Obviously not the greatest line at all. There is some serious sentiment to when you're in a relationship, making sure you put work into it, but I think calling your partner a trophy is obviously bombastic. We have from USA Today, let the people vote. Biden signs an executive order promoting voter access, marking anniversary of Selma March. Something I've been very critical of the federal government lately has been these federal mandates when it came to voting laws. Something that was the normal defense against individuals like Hawley and Cruz during the last election was that the federal government stayed out of state elections. And my growing concern is that if legislation like this is passed, then the remarks that were made by each of them seem more to have more moral standing. Personally, I think each individual state should be running their own election, and that's kind of been the precedent that we've always had as a society. From USA Today, we have Washington President Joe Biden signed an executive order Sunday district directing the federal government to promote voting access in a move meant to commemorate the 56th anniversary of the Selma to Montgomery marches for civil rights. Every eligible voter should be able to vote and have the vote counted. The president said in a virtual address to the Martin and Correct King Unity Breakfast on Sunday just before signing the order, "If you have the best ideas, you have nothing to hide, let the people vote." The order directs federal agencies to expand access to voter registration, election information, according to the administration official. That includes directing heads of all federal agencies to submit a strategic plan to the White House within 200 days of how their departments can promote voter registration and participation. Couple things to remark. Once again, this is not actually any legislation coming from the House or the Senate, and it looks like it's mostly just a executive order on federal agencies trying to promote voter registration. I don't personally have an issue with that. What I have an issue with is when we have Congress making laws, specifically with what we see in HR 1 for the People Act, stating how a state is to run its elections. At some point, there is a sovereignty to every state. We do not need California legislating to West Virginia on how that state runs. Finally, we're going to look at the rise and the fall of Blueanon. So Red State reports on this idea of what Blueanon is, obviously a reference to QAnon, a step forward, adding Blueanon to the political lexicon to stigmatize idiot pundits on the left. This comes from Neanderthal scholar Pozo. Ladies and gentlemen, we did it, where he references how Blueanon got added to Urban Dictionary. What is defined as a loosely organized network of Democratic voters, politicians, and media personalities who sparked left-wing conspiracy theories such as the Russian hoax, Julie Smollett hoax, Ukraine hoax, Covington Kids hoax, and Brett Kavanaugh hoax. Blueanon adherents fervently believe that right-wing extremists are going to storm Capitol Hill any day now and remove lawmakers from office, hence the need for the deployment of thousands of National Guard stationed at the United States Capitol. And of course, if you needed an sentence, hey, did you see that brave Democrat sitting on the Capitol steps on March 5th to send a message to QAnon? Yeah, that was Blueanon, yo. So yeah, obviously it's a little cringy. It's obviously the right poking fun at the left, also in a way making fun of itself and its adherence to QAnon. But it does get to like this whole idea that we've seen is just like how much more unified we see the left is when it comes to conspiracy theories as well as the right. I really hate this idea that the right's the only side of these crazy conspiracy theories. Like, it does go both ways. However, what we see is that from the post-millennial, that this was quickly taken down. What we see is Google and Urban Dictionary censor Blue Anon following widespread mockery of left-wing conspiracy theories. The life of the new term Blue Anon in the online Urban Dictionary was short-lived. After emerging on social media and landing in a spot in the slang term glossary on Saturday, it was quickly purged. A Google search brings up nothing on the term other than brand name ski gear. Jack Posbiek pointed out the deletion from Urban Dictionary. I've never even heard a word being banned from Urban Dictionary before the band Blue Anon. But before the band Blue Anon, a search of the dictionary for the terms comes up short. So they have this same Urban Dictionary reference we're looking at from Pazzo, and then how it was removed. And in this tweet, we have Ian Miles Chong saying Google censored searches for Blue Anon. I really see this, and I obviously Urban Dictionary, being its own private organization, I think has the right to do whatever it wants. But at this point, when you see stuff like this, there's obviously no legitimate reason to remove a word like this. It is an obvious political leaning towards one side or the other, and it's not necessarily cancel culture or anything like that. What we see though is these companies are taking a political stance, and that's their every right, they have so, but they should be outward about doing so, and you as a consumer should have the informed consent, knowing that they are deleting right-wing news, right-wing definitions, right-wing memes, and promoting the left-wing versions of those. And this is your March 8th Not So News update. Once again, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and you're looking for your daily news content, and have a good one.